Hello there, blade fans. Welcome back to another fixed blade review and another review of a custom Koenscraft. Morgan Koens, the maker from Canada. It is an amazing knife, and I want to say something about custom knives. Yes, this is third in a row. Seems that my mail drops have all come at once. So I've got 3 fixed blade customs in a row that I am reviewing. Previously was the Bowie, which I'll bring out in a minute, by Koenscraft. Then a Blackrock boot dagger. And now this Tanto, which not only is custom, but I had some input on. So it's custom in that it has some of the materials and features that I requested, which is a cool thing about customs. You know, you build your own knife. And I interestingly had a comment on the Blackrock knife that somebody said, well, this same design is available for $27 and such. And I don't know that we can even go there with a response to that, because there is a huge difference between custom knives and production knives, and you may not be in the market or have any interest in custom knives. So that being my preface to this review, you're either interested in customs or you're not, or maybe they're not affordable, and I can certainly appreciate that. This is a $400 knife, so is the Bowie, and you've got to get your own sheath made, because Mr. Koens does not provide sheaths with these. That's not unusual for custom knives. Not all custom makers are also sheath makers. So I'll leave it at that. It does give me a lot of latitude to be able to get what I want in terms of a sheath from a custom leather maker. And by the way, who was recommended to me was Nixon Leather. And I know there are others, and I am looking into others as well. All right, enough said. This is an 8-inch bladed beast of a Tanto. If you're looking for something big and definitely a bit menacing and effective, this might be the one. Now, I had requested the option of the cocobolo wood. So this is beautiful grained cocobolo that Morgan uses. I originally saw a photo that was out on Knife News of this knife with a lighter colored handle material, a synthetic handle material, a little thicker in the handle, where he did kind of a faux bamboo ribs on it, and I wanted something like that. The cocobolo was a thinner material to start with. The stock was thinner, so he ended up doing these swells, which work out very nicely. It's smooth, but you definitely get a good grip on it, because you've got a little bit of a bird's beak here, similar to some Filipino style knives. So as you're swinging it, you tend not to slip off. There are 2 screws holding the handles on, so they can be removed as far as I know. I think they would be rivets if you couldn't, so it is not glued on to the best of my knowledge, although I haven't attempted to take it off. The whole thing is done in a beautiful bead blast. The Bowie was done in a bead blast with then a tumbled finish put on it on top of that. This is strictly bead blast. The impressive part of this whole knife, and many of the fixed blades that Morgan Koens makes, is the gigantic fuller, which really excuse me, comes to a interesting termination there, with the grind finishing in the Tanto chisel point, that complex grind near the end. So you've really got complex going on when you got a fuller. You've got that secondary bevel. And what I had asked for here is a crowned spine. And you can see where we start out square shoulders there and run into this really nicely done rounding of the spine. And that comes all the way out to the end where it meets the point and the fuller. Kind of hard to hold that in focus there. So fairly fine point. See if I can get a better shot of this for you. There we go. Beautiful grind job, symmetrical, and extremely sharp. Let's see if we can demo how sharp. I got a itty bitty piece of paper here. Let's see if we can do something to it, some damage. Oh yeah. Yeah, it's too small a piece of paper. Let's try a bigger piece. I know it's sharp because I did this little exercise earlier. There we go. So, big knife. Do you want a razor edge on it? Maybe not necessarily if you're going to do any type of chopping with it and so forth. And regardless of whether it's a factory knife or a custom knife, if you want a different edge on it, you can change that through your own sharpening or honing. Suffice it to say, it will pop hairs off your arm. So he does a great job with the crispness of not only his grind bevels on the blade, but also the crispness of the contouring of that handle. And I did ask for it to be rounded here. It was a little sharp to start with, and that's great because you don't have any, if you happen to grab it this way, you don't have any sharp edges jabbing into your palm. And I do like the faceted look to the pommel. All right, well, why don't we get some measurements on it? And let's see how far I can back out without revealing too much on the tabletop here. Okay, not bad. It is a big knife overall. It is 13.5 inches. It's in the bowie category. There's your 8 inches to the top part of the handle, 8 1/4 to the center, and exactly 8 to the cutting edge and to the very end of the blade there, 8 1/4. So, I mean, we're going to call it an 8-inch knife. Now, in terms of thicknesses, it's a good thick stock, 5 millimeters. In inches, 0.19. And at the broadest part of the handle, 0.73. Now, if we go into one of the finger grooves there, 0.65. So I always like to give you the widest portion of it. Can't weigh it with a sheath because there is none at the moment. There will be fairly soon. So weight in ounces is 12.17, we'll call that. You know, so we're in around 3/4 of a pound, but you know, it feels very light and responsive, I would say. Quick compare to the one I reviewed previously. Here is the fullered bowie. So we're calling the Tanto the fullered Tanto. You can see they're about 1 inch off from each other. Wider blade on the bowie. Bowies generally are. And bowies generally have a belly, which this one does. Beautiful natural micarta on this one. And spine is squared shouldered rather than being radiused or crowned. And comparison to another Tanto fixed blade that I happen to have handy. And this is a Tanto from Bastinelli. And this is called the PY, Protect Yourself, or the PY rather, Protect Yourself. It is a Fred Mastro collaboration with Bastion Coves. Quite a bit smaller, just for comparison. And I consider this to be kind of a medium-size Tanto knife. You can see, you know, still fits, has a lot left over in my hand. But this is kind of a, I don't know, kitchen knife size. Chef's knife size, right? With an 8-inch blade. Morgan, you may not know his custom work, but you may certainly know his production design work. And this is the Shikari made by Concept. This is the Togata made by Bestech. And you can see his interesting design notes in all of these. As I say, I saw the Tanto first out on Knife News. Loved the design, loved the photo that he depicted it in, and said, you know, I really got to have him make me one of those. So then, around the time he was finishing that up, he popped out a couple of those bowies, and I said, you know, I guess I got to have another one. And I guess that is the way it goes with us knife collecting folks, right? You can see large folders, 4-inch blade on that one, and coming up on 4 inches on the Togata, but the 8-inch fixed blade is certainly going to be the largest amongst them. Little look around again at that beautiful grain of the Cocobolo wood. There's Morgan's logo etched in on both sides, as a matter of fact. Not too many makers do that, or maybe they do and I just don't have that many customs yet. But really strong lines and a useful knife. You know, I wouldn't be past putting this to use in the field for camp prep, what have you. I didn't mention the steel, so it is Nitro-V, which is Nitro-V's kind of an improved version of Sandvik in reading knife steel compositions. And he hardens these in his own shop to 60 Rockwell. So does all his own work. Everything's in his own shop. His grinding, his heat treating, you name it. And I think that's amazing that he doesn't need to send them out for heat treating. And, you know, a lot of other makers are doing their own heat treating as well. But I actually have some photos that he showed me through the process, including the heat treating, where this whole blade was cherry red. Very interesting. Well, let me know what you think. Again, not everybody's into customs, but if you are, I think you really appreciate this. Don't forget to give it a like and subscribe. I'll be back with you soon.